Picture this: a single city whose walls stretch longer than the distance from London to Lagos, a place whose artists cast bronze so fine that a Portuguese sailor, utterly bewildered, wrote home saying, "It seems the work of fairies, not men." Now, try to picture that same magnificent city torched in a single week. Its palace reduced to ashes, its sacred bronzes, those incredible works of art, unceremoniously sold off in a London raffle. That, my friends, is the story of Benin, not just a kingdom, but a truly remarkable civilization that once lit up the West African coast, only to be almost rubbed from memory. It's a story of incredible ingenuity, immense power, devastating loss, and remarkable resilience. Our story begins around the year 900 CE, deep in the lush rainforest that is today's southern Nigeria. Here, a group of resilient Edo-speaking farmers and hunters settled on a small, strategic rise they called Igodomigodo. For centuries, their hamlets dotted the landscape, gradually growing, slowly intertwining. By 1300 CE, these scattered communities had begun to merge into something grander, something that felt like a kingdom. But they needed a strong, unifying hand, a ruler who could truly weld these disparate clans together. According to the powerful oral traditions passed down by griots, the keepers of history, they sent a plea to the famed and ancient city of Ife, asking for a prince. Prince Oranmiyan arrived, and though he didn't stay long, he fathered a child with a local princess. This boy, Uwaka, was then installed as the very first true Aba, taking the Edo name, and thus a dynasty was born. From that pivotal moment, the Edo people became the people of Benin, and their Aba wasn't just a king. He was a high priest, a spiritual leader, half man, half spirit, ruling through a sophisticated council of chiefs. Their system was so balanced, so intricate, that later European visitors were astounded, calling it a constitution in cloth and beads. Trade, already a lifeline, saw roots reaching deep into the Sahara. Now, they pushed further south to the delta, where valuable commodities like pepper, ivory, and finely woven cloth moved in exchange for salt, copper, and eventually, the gleaming coral beads that would become the very red blood of Benin diplomacy and prestige. Then, around 1440, a truly transformative figure stepped onto the stage, Oba Uer, the Great. This wasn't just any ruler. This was a visionary. Within months of his coronation, he issued an extraordinary decree. Every adult in the kingdom was to bring one basket of earth to the city gates each dawn. 10,000 baskets a day became an 11-kilometer inner rampart, a formidable barrier. Then came a second wall, and then a third, each layer adding to the city's impregnability. If you look at satellite maps today, it's mind-boggling. You can still trace 16,000 kilometers of these ancient banks and ditches. That's 4 times the length of China's Great Wall. Inside these monumental defenses stood Benin City itself, a marvel of urban planning. Broad, meticulously scrubbed streets greeted the morning sun, cleared by municipal workers daily. Iron lampstands illuminated pathways after dusk. The market was a bustling hub, so vibrant and loud that a Dutch visitor in 1600 remarked, "You could hear the hum before you see the roofs." Canals, cleverly engineered, channeled rainwater, preventing disease and maintaining cleanliness. Palace guilds, carpenters, leopard keepers, astrologers lived in specialized wards, the city laid out like a living diagram of the cosmos. And above the rich red earth skyline, the Abba's palace rose majestically, its towering spires topped with gleaming bronze pythons, catching the sun, symbols of royal power. European travelers, accustomed to their own grand cities, compared it to Venice, but often added, with a touch of envy, that Benin had better drains. Imagine that level of sophistication centuries ago. Royal power, however, needed more than just impressive walls. It needed memory, a tangible way to record and project its history and might. So Oba Uer, ever the innovator, created the Iganir Anwan Guild. These were hereditary casters, masters of their craft, whose descendants still work today, keeping the ancient traditions alive. Using the intricate lost wax technique, they transformed imported brass Manila's currency bracelets into plaques so incredibly thin they would ring like bells when tapped. Each face depicted on these plaques was so individualized, so lifelike, that you could almost believe modern police could use them for ID parades if such a thing existed then. These stunning plaques, nailed to the palace pillars, didn't just decorate. They told the kingdom's saga. The Abba on stilts, towering above his chiefs, symbolizing his divine authority. Queen Idia's forehead bearing intricate tattoos of medicinal leaves, a testament to her wisdom and power. Fierce warriors brandishing Portuguese blunderbusses, advanced weaponry that must have looked utterly futuristic at the time. When an Abba passed away, a master caster would create a commemorative head, a serene, often idealized portrait that rested on ancestral altars, its wide-open eyes seemingly watching over the next generation. Europeans who first encountered these bronzes were often in disbelief, refusing to believe Africans could have created such masterpieces. They spun wild myths about lost Carthaginians or shipwrecked Venetians, desperate to attribute the genius to anyone but the Edo people. But the bronzes, in their silent, powerful artistry, quietly answered back, "We are the archives of Benin, speaking in metal, telling our asterisk story." By 1500, a new chapter began as Portuguese caravels, those iconic sailing ships, anchored off the Benin River mouth. They were hungry for pepper, a valuable spice, and later, tragically, for slaves. But the Abbas of Benin were shrewd rulers. They licensed European brokers, controlling who could trade and how, and crucially, they banned the sale of male Edo citizens. Instead, they sold war captives from rival states, a strategic move that kept the flow of much-needed guns coming into Benin while largely protecting their own population at home. This trade grew deeply symbiotic. Coral beads from Europe paid for ivory. Brass Manilas paid for intricate cloth. And Benin's vast fleets of expertly crafted dugout canoes controlled the delta. Creeks with a mastery that often surpassed any European navy. For 3 centuries, the kingdom stood as a powerful gatekeeper, deftly alternating diplomacy with calculated shows of military force. Yet, every musket that entered the kingdom, every new piece of European technology, also subtly shifted internal politics. Title holders who could afford to buy firearms began to challenge the palace's traditional monopoly on power. By the 1800s, subtle cracks began to appear, civil skirmishes disrupting the once seamless unity of the kingdom. Still, when a British consul arrived in 1850, he found a court so meticulously organized, so efficient, that its paperwork moved faster than in London. The cracks were internal, largely invisible to outsiders, till one fatal, disastrous expedition. January 1897, a date etched in infamy. James Phillips, acting consul for the British, decided to march inland. He led a column of 250 African carriers and 9 British officers, brazenly ignoring explicit orders to wait for the Aba's permission to enter. Officially, they claimed they wanted to discuss trade. Unofficially, their true aim was far more sinister: to depose Oba Ovin Ramon, whom they had conveniently labeled uncooperative. Midway, near the village of Ugbin, Benin scouts, defending their homeland, ambushed the column, killing Phillips and most of his escorts. London newspapers, fueled by imperialistic fervor, screamed massacre. The outrage was immediate and manufactured. Within weeks, an avenging force of 1,200 heavily armed men, equipped with state-of-the-art Maxim guns and terrifying rocket tubes, steamed up the Niger River. They met fierce resistance. Benin warriors, clad in leopard-skin shields, charged with incredible courage, believing that ancestral juju would turn the invaders' bullets to water. It did not. By February 18th, the British forces breached the inner wall, a symbol of Benin's ancient strength. They burned the magnificent palace to the ground, shelled the sacred groves, and unleashed an orgy of destruction. In just 10 days of organized, systematic looting, they packed an astonishing 4,000 bronzes, precious ivories, ancestral altars, and even intricately carved palace doors into gin crates and railway wagons. The king, Oba Ovin Ramon, fled, a tragic figure. He surrendered 6 months later, was tried in a colonial court, and exiled to Calabar. Independent Benin ended not with a treaty or a negotiation, but with the searing heat of a blowtorch and the shattering force of a hammer. And in London, the *Illustrated London News* shamelessly advertised Benin curios to private buyers, while the Foreign Office auctioned off the rest to finance the very war that had stolen them in the first place. The injustice was breathtaking. Today, the legacy of that brutal 1897 invasion is starkly visible across the globe. More than 1,000 priceless Benin bronzes sit in the British Museum, a testament to colonial plunder. Another 500 are in Berlin, 200 in New York, 100 in Vienna. They are everywhere, it seems, except Benin City, their rightful home. Each plaque, each sculpture, often carries a tiny label, "Gift of Sir Ralph Moore," conveniently forgetting to add the crucial context taken during a punitive raid. Nigerian curators, cultural leaders, and the Edo people themselves tirelessly ask for their return for justice. Some museums, in a gesture often seen as condescending, offer loans of what was clearly stolen. But change, however slow, is stirring. Germany, acknowledging the historical wrong, signed a restitution agreement in 2022, a significant step. The University of Aberdeen, to its credit, returned a commemorative head in 2021. And a beacon of hope is rising. The new Edo Museum of West African Art, designed by the renowned architect David Adjaye, is being built on the very site of the old palace. It's preparing to house the bronzes that, bit by bit, are beginning to sail home. Still, thousands remain abroad. Their presence often justified by arguments of global heritage, a phrase many Africans, understandably, hear as nothing more than colonial storage. The debate is no longer really about legal ownership. Virtually everyone now agrees the pieces were looted. The real question, the profound challenge, is whether museums in the West can accept the powerful, honest symbolism of empty display cases as a form of historical truth and reconciliation. Yet, despite the devastation, Benin never truly vanished. It survived. The current Oba Uwere, too, still sits on a throne carved in 1290, a direct lineage unbroken for centuries. He was coronated in the very same ancient rites, a powerful connection to the past. Streamed live on YouTube for the world to witness. In Igan Street, the heart of the bronze casting tradition, casters still pour molten metal using the same beeswax leaves their ancestors used, their hands guided by generations of inherited knowledge. The palace guilds, those ancient institutions, still speak the old sacred oath. I will not reveal the king's words, even if the sky rains fire. Across Nigeria, Benin art continues to shape fashion, inspire design, and permeate culture. Queen Idia's iconic face, a symbol of strength and wisdom, became the emblem of Festac 77, the historic World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, and now adorns everything from coffee mugs to vibrant Afrobeats album covers. Diaspora artists remix the motifs, using modern technology like 3D printing to translate lost wax patterns into contemporary jewelry lines sold in Brooklyn. And every March, the city explodes with the vibrant energy of the Igu Festival, where the Abba, resplendent in coral beads reaching his ankles, dances with a ceremonial sword said to hold the very spirit of the kingdom. What 1897 shattered, the 21st century Edo people are painstakingly stitching back together with immense pride, with the power of Twitter hashtags and with the quiet, unwavering certainty that walls can be rebuilt, even if only in memory and spirit. If these incredible stories of ingenuity, resilience, and profound history are new to you, do yourself a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into African pasts that textbooks, regrettably, often forgot. And hey, drop a comment below. What do you think? Should every single Benin bronze abroad come home, or do some belong in world museums as part of a global conversation? Let's talk about it. So, What truly happened to the ancient Benin Kingdom? It rose on a foundation of sheer ingenuity. Built walls so immense you could see them from space. Forged art so fine it literally silenced European critics. And then, tragically, it met the cold, brutal force of Maxim guns and Victorian greed. Yet, its fall is not the end of the tale. It's a hinge, a pivotal moment in a continuing story. The bronzes, slowly but surely circling back to Nigeria, remind us that history isn't a dusty cemetery of forgotten facts, but a living, breathing conversation. Empires rise and fall, but culture is a stubborn, tenacious seed. You can burn the forest, but it will sprout again. You can melt the bronzes, but memory, like a master caster, will cast them again, in new forms, in new hearts. The Edo proverb wisely says, "A river does not flow through the forest without picking up stones." Benin picked up coral, brass, pepper, guns, exile, and still it flows. So, the next time you see a Benin bronze, perhaps in a glass case, remember the monumental walls that once protected it, the skilled guilds that crafted it, the wise chiefs who debated under frangipani trees, and the auto who danced till dawn, done with bandasins, gades, kikin q with seeds, with theeks with saki kunkwit, sim to the kakurok kakai, kakins seek to suckok gedikasatak kurakai, kakin suistak skatak wawi kasasat gata the ethanio to tupkai kapi kupama papapaki come up where but why us fiskati Remember that true greatness is sometimes measured not by what avoids the fire, but by what survives it tanned, crucially, by who keeps telling the story.